Hello, everybody. I'm Julie D. Welcome to my Inner Circle speaker series. And today, the topic is trance medium, channelers, and seances. So, my person today is Mary Jane, the Celtic wise woman. And so, here are my three questions, MJ, that we're going to cover today. What
Okay.
is a trance medium? What's a channeler? And what happens in a seance?
Oh, three of my favorite topics. And just to let everybody know, I'm here at the Healing Cottage. This is where I work out here in West Salem, Ohio. And I want to introduce you to Lady Empowerment back here. She represents feminine strength. So we hope you come visit and get to meet her. And this is where I hold all my work. So this is in all my readings and retreats and that. So I'm very excited to be in the place that I actually do this work. So your first question was, what is a trance medium? Well, the last time we talked about a medium who is a bridge from this world to the other world. A medium is basically like having a conversation with somebody in the room. They're telling you something and you're telling somebody else something. So, but a trance medium, this is different. Within a trance medium, we go into an called an altered state. We basically go into a hypnotized state that we actually self-hypnotize. And we do this through meditation, and we all have different techniques of how we prepare our bodies to do this. But what's different about trance mediumship is that instead of calling in loved ones or family and friends, this works on a higher level of vibration. This is where we are going into the world of the higher realms. This is where we're going to talk with archangels. This is where we talk to ascended masters, meaning these are individuals who are very high on the plane, very wise people. Councils of elders. There's some councils out there. Many of you work with councils, and I know a lot of Native Americans work with council of elders as well as do Celtic spirituality. This is also your master guides. These are guides that are with you all the time. You might call them guardian angels or whatever, but master guides are a little bit different. They're on a higher level. But it's also where you can also speak to creator or God or to the great mother and in all the goddesses. So this is a very high level uh, speaking. But what's different about this is that for them to speak to us, we have to match a vibration. So where it's easier for me to speak to a loved one who has been on earth and who is, here just to talk to their relatives and friends, a higher being doesn't, and they're speaking in vibration and frequencies. So we have to be able to match that energy. And when they come in, this is why we say that we're the voice of spirit, because they actually come in and merge their energy with mine, where we become one. And then as we become one, I voice their message. Now, the messages very often are very philosophical, meaning that they could be talking to you about how to look at life, maybe how life can be better for you. They may bring out how to solve problems, but usually globally that we all can understand. But there's a lot of channels out there who bring in, who do, about the future, about different things like that. I never know what they're going to bring in, but I will tell you, you will not forget the message because it's always full of love. And you can ask questions. So if you have a question, you can ask, and they will be able to answer that. I tend to be the voice of the Great Mother, of the high sacred feminine energy, but that doesn't mean that's always who I'll bring in. I was a little surprised last week by was someone that I didn't expect, So, and it was good. It was all good. It was actually with St. Francis of Assisi, which really threw me off because I was not who I was expecting. I'm so used to voicing the goddesses and the Great Mother, but it was a message for someone who needed to hear this. So we bring in many different messages. Sometimes, if you ask a question, they will answer it, but we'll be in a philosophical way. Okay. Now, a conscious channeler. Now, this means that a trance medium and a channeler are the same, except trance goes into an altered state where, you're like this or like that. Those of you who are familiar with Edgar Casey, he was a trance medium. It's anybody who goes into an altered state. And now a conscious channeler, that I also do that, and a lot of us do that. We do merge with the higher light beings. However, we're conscious and aware of our surroundings and our body, and we may talk to you like this. However, they're using you this way, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak, to provide messages. And I tend to do that a lot, is the conscious channeling, because all of a sudden I say they'll just hop in and say, here we go, and you'll notice that there's something different about me. Those who work with me a lot, and a lot of my clients know when I go into channel, because I tend to get very animated and usually my hand starts going. And that's another thing about channelers and about trance mediumship channelers. We very often either hold very still, or we could be very animated. I have done some very animated ones where I had everybody laughing in the room. I don't know what it's that, but I don't always remember from trance. But we never know, but it will always make you feel good, will always make you feel loved. And I guarantee you will be the message that you need that day and that time. But what you might not know is how often you yourself may be channeling. There's times going, where did that come from? Or people who write, people who do great artwork, so often they will say they don't know where that came from. So often, sometimes if you're talking to somebody and you're going, boy, where'd this wisdom come from? You may be channeling your own guide, or somebody else who's giving you that information.
Yeah,
And
sometimes when I'm like washing my hair, it's like I kind of feel like
yes,
I lose it then. And it's like, how long have I been washing my hair? It's like I kind of like
yes,
wake up.
spirits will speak to you when you aren't thinking.
Mhm.
So it's very, a lot of times it's when you're in the shower that you will get messages, or you'll hear something because you're washing your hair. You're not thinking of 100 million things usually.
Right.
And we'll get whenever we're in a bit of a suspended state where it's preventing us from thinking about everyday life, spirit will jump in to give you a message or to help
Also,
or
when I'm
speak
driving
to
the
you.
car,
Yes,
I
very
I've
much.
heard even people say like, I don't even know how I got home. I don't remember driving home.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes we go into a bit of an altered state while driving. Um, I, I have a story of one time I was driving to Youngstown, and my sister had called me a day or two before about a young man who had died in an auto accident. And as I was driving down 76, dear God help us, I left my body. Now, something was still driving my car,
What is
but
that?
I
Jesus
left.
take the wheel?
I had to be, because I was gone and I was watching this young man being welcomed into heaven. It was amazing. And then as I watched him and I waved goodbye, I had never met him. This, for some reason, happened. Um, it's like I opened my eyes and I was in the same place I was driving on 76 when I went into trance or an altered state where I was, or through a portal, but I was at the same spot. So I kind of went into a different dimension, came back to at the same time. But I do know when I got to the show I was working, I was a little shook up. You don't know what just happened to me. But you're right. And so it's any time that you're in a state where you're just kind of daydreaming, that a lot of times, whatever those thoughts that come in, pay attention, because that will be spirit. And like I said, a lot of times writers, people who write music, I do a lot, writing out lesson plans and that. I'm like, who wrote this? It wasn't me. And you go back and look at that. So yeah, we can all be channelers. And very often, like I said, people who know me know I tend to go in and out of channels sometimes. So those who know, they are familiar with the gestures. Now, another thing that might happen, I didn't mention before, with trance mediumship, and it can also happen with conscious channeling, is that the voice may change. So as the spirit is embodying and you're allowing yourselves to merge as one, you may pick up their voice. So I've had my voice change. I know people who go into foreign languages. I haven't done that yet, though I'm told I have some kind of accent. They can't understand where it comes from. Sometimes the face may change. You may see some shifting in the face that we call transfiguration, meaning that um, it's taking on the essence of the spirit speaking through to you. And I've had this happen twice. I've had it happen watching someone else do it, and I've had it where people afterwards will say, your whole face changed or your voice changed, and I don't always know it, to be honest with you. And so, and then it's also said that when you're in trance, you stop aging. So keep me in trance as long as you want. But
Exactly.
um, yeah, everything that you go into a very altered state. You're literally, because you're one with spirit, and it takes a while to come out of it. So you never want to jolt anybody in trance or channel out of their channel. I've had this happen. It's physically very harmful to the body. I spent about 3 days with a migraine, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack when it did happen. So it's something where we keep it very reverent when someone's in channel or in trance mediumship, to allow that energy to speak and to be able to leave without being jolted out. And then everything works out fine that way. But yeah, um, sometimes my voice changes. It's been changing a lot more lately. I record it sometimes, so there is an accent that, and then, like I said, sometimes the face will change. You'll see the facial features maybe shifting and adjusting, and I don't feel that, to be honest with you. So the only thing I do is I turn bright red as this sweater, and that's that's a new phenomenon of mine. So
Yeah, I've seen that with you for sure.
yeah,
Um, so do you think like good actors and actresses
yes,
try to
yes.
tap into this?
They will tell you that. They will tell you that often when they take on a character, they will be, um, a character who was, a historical character or something. They will feel that person coming into them. So very often you're seeing very channeled work, and an actor will tell you that. There's an excellent movie. I think it's Netflix. I'm not sure, but when Jim Carrey was doing, oh
Andy
goodness, what's his?
Kaufman?
Yeah, he went into character so much, he became Andy Kaufman and could not come out.
I read
And
about
so
that.
it's as a channeler, ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. As a channeler, watching that, I understood where he was at, because sometimes it is hard to come out of the person or entity that you're channeling. So apparently there, Andy Kaufman was very strong in wanting to be seen and known, but it was very hard on Jim Carrey. I can't think of the name right now, but it's on Netflix. But yeah, if you really want to watch somebody goes deep into character, he does, and Jim Carrey is a very deeply spiritual man, so I'm not surprised that he can do that. Yeah, but yeah, actors will tell you that
The good
they
ones.
literally, yeah, they're channeling. And another thing that they'll say is the same thing. It's hard to come out of character, and you have to. It's a process of, you just don't stop. You go home in the character and everything, and you have to ease out. I know when I do trance mediumship, um, even when I come out, if I'm still with a group or a client, I will still go back and forth into channel, because it's not completely going yet, because I have to actually leave where I'm at and do that on my own.
Hmm.
And I have to ground and get back in my body, and it could take a couple hours. It could take a couple hours, but if you're trained like I am, you know what to do. And I would always tell somebody, get trained and know what you're doing before doing trance mediumship and channeling. It's very different from mediumship, but I have to say all the work is very exhausting. It's very exhausting when you're working with a higher energy, whether it's bringing in your loved ones or the higher beings of light, like angels and stuff. It is very exhausting and fatiguing to the body. So most of the time, a lot of us have to take a day or two off to get our energy back up. So we have to lead pretty clean lives to stay healthy with this. So, but I love it though. I just love it. It's like I said, it's one of the reasons I'm a spirit walker now. I can pretty well shift pretty quick between both worlds and still lead a normal life.
Oh, really happy that you can. So, and our last topic is what happens in a seance?
So a seance, this is something that oh my God, how years and years. And this started years ago, hundreds of years ago in Europe. And it's part of the spiritualism or spiritualist movement. And back in the early 1900s, they're still held today, but it started with spiritualism. But it's when people would gather around a table and hold hands and light candles, and a medium would lead the seance. And the seance is basically getting together to contact spirit. So we hold hands, they do it in the dark, medium will contact somebody. In those, you will hear rappings and knockings. Sometimes an apparition will appear. So those are more where we do it at night and we sit around a table and we hold hands. The type of seance I'm talking about is the kind that is calling people in circle. It's the same thing, but we're gathering in an open circle, and I have an altar in the middle of mine. Now, a seance can also be, let's just step back a minute. You could have a seance by being around a table and just doing card readings together, and you have one person doing reading. I do that with my nieces. We have, our seances where we gather in circle, and then we do cards, and someone will go in, one of the nieces will go into, or myself will go into channel during it. But we're trained and we also know what we're doing. But what we do here is another form of seance, which is when we gather in a sacred circle. And women always know how to gather in circle because we're relational, we build community. And as we gather in circle, we don't hold hands with just the power of being in circle. And in the middle, I always have an altar to focus on, and that altar is dedicated to what we're getting in circle for. So for the upcoming seance that we have coming here at the Healing Cottage on July 30th, the altar is going to be the great goddess Caradwin and about renewal with the new moon. And we will receive the messages and the higher beings who will come talk to us through honoring her. And Women in Circle is a very powerful force that I have seen. I have seen healings. I have seen people themselves change and transform there. So that's the difference. And we hold ours in daylight. And I was just today reading about the science of how important it is to gather when there's daylight and sunlight in natural settings. Well, hello, that's what the Healing Cottage is. So you can have any type of seance. It doesn't have to be around a table holding hands, but does require a group of people to gather together with a medium. You have to have a medium lead it, and to also realize that this is very sacred work to contact spirit. But there's really nothing to be afraid of. That it's all your own attitude. Unfortunately, a lot of the pictures out on Google and everything about seances are real scary and spooky looking. Yeah, it can be. You're doing it in the dark, right? And you're holding things. I've been in these where one was called a covered seance. So the room's completely dark and someone sits in basically an open face cupboard with just a light underneath them. And that's interesting. It was fun, really, because we had a lot of great spirits come through. But you don't need to do that. You can do it in the daylight. You can do it the way we're doing it. But we're doing it the Celtic way. And that is the Celtic wise woman spirituality always gathers in circles to contact spirit and always does it with other women because we share. And whoever decides to come in that day, will have wonderful messages. It's all about attitude.
I saw a wonderful meme out on Facebook, and it was like, this was our old Snapchat. And basically It was us when we were young, sitting around with our mother and grandmother snapping peas. You know,
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
was a
I mean,
Snapchat,
this was where Women in Circle began centuries
right?
ago because women in the villages would always get together, and that's how we shared our knowledge.
Right.
It's how we shared our wisdom and passed it down. And we're still doing it. The other day I was out with my daughter and we're sitting with somebody else and we were in a circle. It's just kind of like we tended to go into circle because it's a time of sharing, and this is when spirit very often is very active. And um, we were laughing at the signs we were getting that they were having fun with the fun we were having. But again, seances are not to be feared. Don't go afraid. Don't do that. That's not the way to go. Go with the idea of knowing that a very loving spirit there's some wonderful mediums in Cleveland who do seances around the table, and always go with the idea that they're working for your greater good to be with spirit, just like I'm doing the same thing, working for the greater good of women who are seeking more of a deeper authentic self and spirituality within them.
Yeah, I think once there are some people that come, then they'll get it, and
Mhm.
then obviously they'll tell their friends. But so we're planning this one on the 30th, and then we might even have another one
Yes,
in the
and I'll
fall.
tell you what, I did these before COVID, so they're pretty powerful. So this will not be the first time. Uh, I'm doing it, and it was growing pretty good before COVID shut us down. But it was amazing what happens again with Women in Circle. But yeah, we have one coming up here at the Healing Cottage. I'm just
Yes.
showing you a part of the Healing Cottage here in West Salem, Ohio. And West Salem is a little less than an hour outside Cleveland and about 45 minutes, 15 minutes outside Akron. So most of the people who come here, so it's at 45 minutes to an hour's drive. Um, but we are going to have a Celtic wise woman seance circle here Saturday, July 30th. And we're going to hold it from 4:30 to 7 p.m. Afterwards, you're welcome to stay to talk and chat and get to know each other. But we also now just plan one for some of our favorite time of the year, which is Halloween. However, we call it Samhain here at the cottage. And in the Celtic wise woman tradition, we celebrate Samhain. So I don't have to look at the date. I don't, well, it's going to be that Saturday before Halloween, which I don't know, Julie, 29th or something,
Let me
but we'll
check.
get that out to you. But that we will celebrate Samhain.
29th is a Saturday. Yes.
I've been okay,
You knew
and
it.
we'll do that a little earlier in the day because it is as Julie can tell you, these roads are dark at night. So we tend
There's no
to,
street lights out in West Salem.
there's none. There's none.
Maybe some
And
buggies going by without lights too.
yeah, that's great. They just have reflectors on theirs. But it's no, so that night, but we'll do that earlier. But again, it doesn't have to be daytime. It doesn't have to be nighttime. That's a very high vibrational time on a frequency. There is a lot of spirit activity. And what we'll be doing is we'll be honoring those spirits. And we'll be doing some lead ups before then to kind of explain to you the myths and truths about Halloween and Samhain. But Samhain is considered a very sacred holiday within the Wicca and pagan communities. So, yeah, so Julie and I will do some fun videos leading up to that to help you understand. And would love to have you attend.
And they better, we're going to have the registration link down below for the event on the
Yes.
30th of this month. And we don't
Hmm.
have a lot of spots available. So if you're
No,
watching this and you're interested, you should sign
no.
up now.
Please note this is $55, but we're only taking 10 people. Here at the cottage, I like to work with small groups so that everybody can, it's more of an intimate setting, so everyone has a chance to really experience what's going on. So these spots are going quick, so I would urge you to jump on the link below and sign up and save your sacred spot here. And Julie and I will be here to welcome you.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Mary Jane.
Yes.
So I guess we'll
And
see everybody next time. Are we doing another one of these next week before the
um,
event?
yeah, let's do what we'll do one more, and
One
we'll
more.
maybe kind of bring things together. And I've got some ideas. I'm thinking about doing it. We'll do a tour of the Healing Cottage next week. We'll
And
take the
I
phone
do
and
know
move
that some
around.
people are interested in how you started doing all of this. So that might
Yeah,
be
I'll talk
something you
about
could
that
touch
next
into.
week.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I'll show you the spot it happened in. So
Oh,
right,
very excited to hear
yeah,
that.
I started channeling right here in this cottage. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week too. But
Sounds
thank you,
great.
Julie. Really
Thank you, Mary
appreciate it.
Jane. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.